Justin Stoddard. I'm excited today to bring you a topic that I'm passionate about from someone who I don't know if I could seek out and find somebody who's more qualified to talk about how to get a lot of stuff done and be a high achiever in multiple areas. And we're going to talk about morning routine and maybe having a bit of a paradigm shift for you in the amount of things that you can be accomplishing by nailing the morning routine and by hearing and being inspired by this gentleman's story. So first of all, I want to, before I fully introduce him, I want to thank Eric. Thanks for being on the show today, man.
You're welcome, brother. Here we are. So let's rock and roll this thing. I'm excited.
I love it. For those that don't know Eric, some may know him as he was at one point equity partner in 5 Better Homes and Gardens offices. He's now sits on the board of that organization, continues to be a real estate investor, has projects all over the place, owns a restaurant. Here's some cool things. In addition to being actually a veteran, served our country in the Marines. Thank you for that, Eric. Cool. He also is a father of 2 kids, and he's currently in the top 10% in the world for his age group for Ironman triathlons. In addition to that, you've done all kinds of really cool races. Talk to us a little bit, Eric, before we get into kind of the morning routine and even some of the business stuff. Talk to us a little bit about your like some of these races and stuff that you've done.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a self-proclaimed like adrenaline junkie or anything like that, but I do believe that comfort is the enemy of progress. So I'm always looking for ways I can push myself out of my general comfort zone. And I mean, come on, we live in a great country. We live in a great place. I have a great home, a great life. And so, that can evoke complacency. And the best way I found to like get myself out of that financially or in a relationship or any other way business-wise is to push my body. And if I'm uncomfortable and kind of get familiar with pain, then little stuff doesn't really matter. So yeah, I find crazy the 100-mile mountain bike races or climb mountains or these triathlons and that kind of stuff, just to literally push myself and remind myself that it's okay to be in pain. It's okay to suffer. And the gratitude and the feeling and the sense of pride you have afterwards is irreplaceable. So that's why I do those.
I love it, man. Good stuff. Talk to us about some of like you've done in addition to the triathlons. What else have you done? I know there's a 100-mile mountain bike ride. What else is the list of?
That's the Cascade Lakes 100, down in Central Oregon. It's amazing, right? But it was grueling. It's one of those where you climb like 10,000 feet in a day and it's 90 degrees and it's pretty technical trails. And so it's just one of those that it pushed me, and there's a whole long story with that, but that one pushed me for sure. I've done some different adventure races and trail running races, and like went to Africa and climbed Mount Kilimanjaro and things like that. So I just kind of like find what inspires me. And when I wake up in the morning and my eyes light up and I want to have something that I'm going towards. So that's why I pick some of those things.
It's so cool. I'm so inspired by what you've done. So sometimes when people see people that are, for example, triathletes that hike these mountains, I know one common thing that people say is, well, I've got a job, I've got a business. I can't do that stuff full time. I can't be in the gym full time. And that definitely hasn't been your situation. As I mentioned before, the number of things that you've accomplished from a business standpoint, I would imagine a lot of this stuff that you do, you've got to fit it in and around a very business schedule. You've got to fit it in maybe first thing in the morning. Is that true?
Yeah, well, I did this morning. It does vary based on my schedule because it needs to be a fluid schedule. I have kids, I got to get up and all that kind of stuff. So, up to school sometimes. And so it's one of those things where we have time for everything that we make a priority for. So if it's a priority for me, magically you find the time. I mean, that's just how it works. And time literally is the only equalizer in the world. Opportunities and life is generally completely unfair with the exception of the distribution of time. And so if that's true, then just how we spend our time is a result of what our life is like. And so, yeah, I find the time, I make the opportunity, I make the time. And for me, there's a couple just non-negotiables, and health and fitness is one of them. Because if you don't have that, you don't have anything, and if you're one of those guys that has the world and the private jets and the yachts and all that kind of stuff, and you find out you have cancer, you would change all of that literally for a clean bill of health. And so, I try and feed my mind and my body like that is the most important thing, because that is the foundation for every other positive thing in my life is how you look and feel. Yeah.
That's interesting. I've heard a quote by Jim Rohn where he said, if you don't take care of your body, where are you going to live?
Yeah. I love that man. And so many things, so many little sound bites came from him that I integrate in my daily life for sure. I love Jim Rohn. Good one.
Let's talk about kind of going down kind of in more depth on the topic of morning routine. Like you said, if it's a priority, it fits in. Yeah. I know for me, I've got, in fact, I just wrote a blog post. I'll have to put a link to that in the comments here that really outlines like step by step, minute by minute, what I do for my morning routine. So I won't spend a ton of time on it. I really want to delve into yours. But what is on a typical day outside of the days where you've got to be fluid because, maybe wife's out of town or you've got some kind of unique situation, but what does it typically look like for you? What time does the alarm go off for you, or does one even go off at all?
Yeah, not anymore. I actually kind of structure things. So generally I sleep is obviously hypercritical. I'm not the best sleeper, to be honest with you, just for a variety of reasons, but I focus on it. I try. But I generally wake up when I wake up, and since it's so seasonal here, I leave the blinds open in the morning. So I wake up with the sun generally, or try and, hit it before. But the idea of waking up to alarm kind of buzzing and beeping isn't awesome. That happens at times, but, generally wake up when I wake up, and it's earlier than I need generally. And so that's perfect. But I go directly to the water. Like when I wake up, I literally go directly to my water and my vitamins, because I got to hydrate for the day. And that's how I start my day. And then I go right from there. I listen to, read, or try and find a quote or something that inspires me or educates me or something, like right away before I get in the shower, before I check my email, before I say hi to anybody. Like I'm trying to find this rudder for my day and this inspiration for the day that just sparks some sort of interest in me and kind of gets my mind going at the same time. So that's literally how I just fire up in the first 5 minutes of my day are those things. And those are non-negotiable. Actually, it just happens now.
So this concept of sleeping until you wake up, what time do you go to bed? Because that's got to play some part of it.
Yeah, but you know what? Your body, especially when you get in a routine, any sort of routine, your body just naturally does that. So even if you go to bed later, you still wake up at the same time. Mm-hmm. So you have to be good about it. It's really hard, once you're in a routine of waking up at a certain time, this. If you wake up at a certain time almost every single day, that's what you're waking up no matter when you go to bed. Yeah. So, I gotta make sure I'm okay with that. But I don't go to bed until 11 or so, and I'm up 5:30 to 6, pretty easily.
Yeah, similar.
Yeah. Now, that's not if I'm out and had a few cocktails or something like that, to be honest with you. But yeah, that's how it works almost every single day.
Nice. So talk about from there, you hit the gym. Is that kind of next step for you? You get water, get inspired. So you've covered kind of like the body hydration. You've covered kind of getting the mind right. Does the gym typically come in the morning for you? Does that come later in the day?
Movement on some level has to happen right away, because our physiology, the way our body is wired, is directly connected to our emotions. Like you can't disconnect those two. So, in some workshops I've done or whatever, it's pretty fun. If you have somebody do jumping jack, or raise their hands completely above their heads and put a big smile on their face and tilt their head back and breathe deep, they can't get depressed or they can't stop themselves from being optimistic, at that moment in time. So your body and your physiology really dictates your mood. So if you're starting your day and you're at your phone and your shoulders are down and you're not breathing deep and you haven't had any movement, then of course it's going to be hard to be inspired and have all this energy. So, we have this boundless energy if we just tap into it, and it starts with moving your body. So I have to move my body on some level. Even if I'm not going to the gym or going for a run, I just do a set of jumping jacks or just something. I have a little mini trampoline, a little rebounder that I just jump on for a few minutes just to get everything going, and I start smiling, and that's how I start my day.
It's interesting, this concept of not checking your email right away or even social media right away. I know for me, when I check email, I'm immediately putting my day on someone else's agenda, right? It immediately becomes I'm asking other people to dictate what they want for me that day, as opposed to me following my blueprint of the life that I want. Right? I'm not saying I don't check email, even before business hours. So I'm typically checking email, 7:30 at least. But I've found that the more that I can delay that, the more that I get the things in that matter most to me. Whereas if I start checking it, all of a sudden other people's priorities become maybe urgent for me when maybe they aren't even that urgent of a deal. But that's just the way I'm wired, is if somebody asks something to me, I want to get back to them. So I either respond and disrupt what would actually give me the better foundation, or I delay it, but then it gets in my subconscious of I'm slowing them down, right? Which isn't good either.
Yeah, and I think sales professionals and business owners and people in general have to make a decision. You either have to always be available, or you have to always be worth waiting for. Mm-hmm. You can choose between those two, right? And so there's more value in always being worth waiting for generally than always being available, because anybody can say, call me 24/7, respond 24/7. That doesn't mean they're going to get the energized, professional, focused, knowledgeable, researched you. They want the best version of you. So I have found that always being worth waiting for is way more powerful than just always being available.
Well, I see the real estate industry moving in like a contrary direction, right? You look at a lot of the way the lead generation platforms, they reward those that are on-call doctors without getting paid like on-call doctors. And unfortunately, I think it reduces the professionalism and the overall perspective that people have about real estate agents. If you can get one as fast as you can get an Uber driver, I don't know that that lends itself to your brand being something that people will wait for. So I agree. I think there's actually value in saying, here, these are my business hours. I'll get back to you at that point. Before then, I have things that are important that actually allow me to show up and be a powerful person when we do meet.
Yeah. And, especially in this business, it's just personal and professional is so intertwined. And, you have to be on other people's schedules and for showings and so on and so forth. And that's an important factor of the business, but the business isn't your life. And so making sure that it doesn't overpower one is the constant struggle that I've had at times for sure. And I know a lot of people else have too. So, it's just one of those, you have to empower yourself to be okay that, your agenda, your life has to come first, because then you're a more whole person that you can give to other people, including your clients.
Yeah. One of the things that I've implemented into mine is this concept of writing and creating. So I'll spend an hour in the morning. I'm actually working on an ebook that will then become a book. And so I'm spending an hour from 6 to 7 a.m. Purposely writing, and I do a blog post at 8. And this allows me to be more valuable to my customers when I show up with them, right? Or when I'm trying to get new customers. I'm in a different spot because I've had to organize thoughts and actually put something on paper that's valuable. Have you found any sort of practice when it comes to, rather than just responding to the requests of other people, you yourself actually creating or developing something or even planning? Like what shows up for you when it comes to like being proactive about the value you bring to the marketplace?
Yeah, for sure. But in order to create, there's something that's often missed. There's a step one, and that's consumption. Like, I think you have to consume interesting information and consume energy of other people and books and podcasts and webinars and conversations. And if the consumption isn't there, then you don't have all of that creativity and those inputs and those stimuluses to be able to create. And so I think the first thing is creating the time to be able to consume the goodness, right, of whatever vibe or content that you need, that you can then put your own spin and your expert, look and view for your customers or whoever you're trying to attract. But the consumption has to come first for me. So I'm a consumer, and then all of a sudden these opportunities come up where something comes out of your mouth, like a webinar or a podcast or something like that. You're like, damn, that was perfect, but it doesn't come from something you got it from somewhere. You're influenced by somewhere. So intentionally choosing your influences comes first before that creative spark can get done. So a lot of people do want to have an ebook like you or a book, but they don't have the spark, and they find themselves trying to grind it out, and they're manufacturing it instead of being inspired by the vibes that they've consumed in their life.
That's powerful, man. Talk to us about what is it that you consume? Are there is it podcasts? Do you sit and read? Do you listen? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, well, just as much as, people are pretty aware of diets, whether it's your paleo or keto or Whole30 or whatever. I mean, they know what happens to your body when you put bad stuff in your body, but not everyone's as mindful as what they're putting in their mind. And you have to be just as conscious about what you put in your mind as you put in your body. And so for me, I'm pretty intentional. So like my social media feed is pretty well cleaned out of any of the negative vibes and the backstabbing and just the dramatic things that happen. And I'm trying to fill it with human beings like Jesse Itzler and people like that I really aspire to and look for as a leader in what they do and are proven powerhouses and experts in what they do. And so I just get inspired by that. And so I fill my feed with those things. And then I actually go. So I might think of something like relationships, or I might think of something of the truth or fitness, and I'll just Google that. I'm like, give me a fitness quote, and I'll just kind of follow it down that rabbit hole a little bit. Might find a webinar that I've never known of before, or a saying or a song even, that gets me going. And so I use music a lot. I love listening to music, but I'll also watch the lyrics across the screen as I'm listening to it, so I can also understand what the musician was trying to, deliver in terms of the content in the meeting. So I just kind of follow those little rabbit holes every single day. And yeah, there are podcasts that I generally try and stick to because I find them fascinating and inspirational and just full of good content. Because there's also a lot of posers out there. I'll just say that just spit out garbage. So I try and make sure I'm getting credible information as much as I can.
Yeah. Let's talk kind of lastly here about maybe like relationships, whether that be in a spiritual relationship and or with your family. Is there something you do to take the kids to school? Do you have breakfast with them? Do you at least give them a kiss while they're sleeping? What does it look like for you to be able to like touch those people and things that matter most to you first thing?
the foundation of all those things, and the thing I'm just constantly trying to get better at, because it's something I think we all can. So I'm not professing to be the expert at this, but it's presence, and if you're going to have FaceTime with somebody or on the phone or even a messaging or a text message, there isn't anything that people crave more, especially today, than presence and non-distracted presence. And so if you're going to have any sort of relationships that you value, then you better make sure that you're being as distracted free as you can be for those human beings. So if it's my kids or my customers or whoever it might be, presence is something I'm trying to get better at. And I think that people find a lot of value in presence for sure.
It reminds me of another Jim Rohn quote, since we're down that trail. He said, maybe this was Ziegler, but he said, only floss the teeth you want to keep. And I was reminded of that as you were talking about like the relationships that matter to you, like only give your full self, only be present to the relationships you actually want to keep.
And it's unfortunate because generally, like salespeople, they want to meet a lot of people, and they're giving, with their time, they're giving with their energy. That's why people, burn out, and they're not inspired by that, because just what they're receiving and what they're giving aren't in alignment. Mm-hmm. And so, people recharge their phones multiple times a day, or at least once a day, but they're not recharging themselves. And I get charged up by conversations and by the energy of others. So and it doesn't have to be one-on-one like this. It doesn't have to be even live. It can be via a video that I watch, right? Or a podcast I listen to. That's my time with that person. And you can get mentored by anybody in the world now. And that's like, if you want to know any information, you can have access to millionaires and billionaires, like in their life, they'll vlog it, and you can read and listen to their words and follow them through the day. And I mean, how amazing is that you can have just access to mentors that we didn't have? So seek those out, and go get those vibes that you're looking for.
That's powerful, man. I would encourage everybody here that's listening to this, if you've been inspired by what Eric said. I know he's lived a life, again, starting, I'm sure, from an early age and into the Marine Corps and into business and now into fitness and being an investor. He just inspires people everywhere he goes. If you are not yet following this guy or friends with this guy on Facebook, go find him. Eric Post is his name, and he's a fantastic human being. He's been inspiring me from afar. He probably didn't even know that I was observing, but I've always been inspired by the way he shows up in the world and in social media. And it's positive, it's good stuff, it's powerful. And I want to thank you, Eric, for helping contribute to my mission and my passion, which is to help people think bigger. Because I know when they do, their business tends to follow suit, and they then end up getting the options in the life and the impact that they really want. So thank you for contributing to that today, and for being a part of helping me extend my passion and mission to other people. So appreciate you, man, very much. It's been a blast.
Cheers, brother. Good luck.
Thank you.